All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Kabbalah Café. It's great to see you all. This is the real me, not the AI me. I'll let you know when that changes. Kidding. Okay, so we are going now. I feel like I want to out AI the AI and do something that I wouldn't normally do, like sing. Kidding. So, welcome. Today's class is entitled Alignment, and I'm going to talk about a theme that comes up. There's a notion, there's a teaching from the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, Rabbi Ari. He once walked into the Beis Medrash, which is the study hall in his yeshiva, and he said to his students, he said, "Medarf leben mit tzeit," and he walked out. It was a bit of a mic drop. What does that mean? It means you have to live with the times, or we have to live with the times. And then he leaves, and everyone's wondering, what does he have to live with the times? What does that mean? Are we putting on like Russian hats? Is that even a thing? Right? Are we singing? Are we becoming modern back in the 1700s? Are we becoming modern Russian citizens? As it were, 250 years ago. What does that mean? We have to live at the times. And his brother clarified that what the Alter Rebbe meant was not that he was suggesting becoming a modern Russian Jew. Who was that? No, okay. Got it. Not that he was suggesting that you actually become a modernized and Buck tradition, but rather, good morning, that you got to live with the Torah portion of the week. Medaf Leben means that the weekly Torah portion is not just happens to be what synagogues around the world are studying that week, but it's tied into the energy of the week itself and what we're living with that week. So along those lines, I want to speak very quickly in the opening about a theme that relates to our topic today, that not only relates to our topic, but is the very core of our topic today, and that is the drama. This week's Torah portion, Vayishlach, talks about the drama of the reunion between the two brothers, the twin brothers of Yaakov and Esav, Jacob and Esau. And the Torah tells us that after 20 plus years, Jacob finally returns home, or is set to return home. He sends Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. That's how the Torah portion begins. Jacob sends angels or messengers to his brother to check out what's going on. The last time he was with his brother wanted to kill him, literally for taking the blessings that were destined for the firstborn. And so now, 20 years later, Jacob wants to test the mood in the room. Like, how upset is my brother? Still want to kill me, or we can make peace? And he gets the word. He still wants to kill him. He's in fact, now that he hears that he's approaching, he's coming out. Esau is with 400 men armed to the teeth, and he is going to prepare for battle. Jacob prays. He prepares for battle himself. He sends gifts. You know what? It works. By the time the two meet, they reconcile, or they hug, they kiss, and all is well. It seems like the brotherly feud melts away, and the two brothers finally, on some level, reconcile. Kabbalah explains that this is not just a story of two brothers, but it's a story of two realities. Esav, or Esau, represents the reality of Tohu, Olam HaTohu, the world of chaos. And Jacob, Yaakov, represents Olam HaTikun, the world of Tikkun, the world of repair. So what is the world of chaos and what is the world of repair? It's a topic that we've discussed before, but it's important to bring it up one more time and to very quickly explain it. You're all familiar with this. We've printed a version like this many, many times. This is the chart of Sfirot, mystical energies. And it depicts 10, sometimes 11 energies known as the Sfirot, the energies that God uses to create the world. And the typical depiction of these energies is in this modality, where you have 3 columns, a right column, a left column, and a center column, and different layers within the columns. This is called the partsuf. Partsuf means face. Why is this called the face? Because like a face that has a right eye, a left eye, and a center nose, right? The face is symmetrical. We have a right side, a left side, and a center line. The same thing is true with this depiction of the Sfirot energies. You have a right line, you have a left line, and you have a center line. a right, a left, and a center, and that creates, good morning, that creates balance. And balance is healthy. And here's what I mean. The world of tohu, the world of chaos, there was no balance. When you don't have balance, things can get a little bit dicey. Things can get a little bit volatile. What I mean by that is very simple. When you have, let's say, chesed, which is kindness and love, but more just basically giving. And then you have gvura, which basically means withholding, and each one is throttled to 100%. So you have two energies in the same room, and one says give, and one says don't give. And no one is going to create space for the other. No one's going to give, right, space or allowance for the other position to be heard or be correct. What's going to happen is it's going to devolve into chaos, where two people or two energies are going to be completely at odds and lock horns, right? Whatever. Lock horns. This is not a Texas reference. Bulldog, right? Right? Yes. Right. This is right. They're going to lock horns, and it's not going to end well. It's going to be volatile. The way that we manage conflict is always the same. Doesn't matter what the conflict is. If you want to manage the conflict, when I say manage, if you want to resolve the conflict, it's always by one or both parties taking a step back, turning the temperature down, and opening up space to listen to the other and to say, you know what? We'll do it your way. You know what? I hear you. You know what? I don't have to be right. Or the other one saying to you, you know what? Let's do it your way, etc. It's always the same thing. In other words, it's the balance, or what I would call this morning, the cooperation between the dueling energy fields and forces that creates the condition of tikkun, of repair. It's not only, it's not only repair. We can pass this around, actually. Good point. It's not just repair. It's what I would call, I guess, sustainability. It is spiritual sustainability to the point where these energies are working together fundamentally, as opposed to fundamentally working apart from each other and fighting with each other. The simple question is there competition or is there synergy? Right? When you have two voices, is it, I don't know what the other word is. Is it harmony? That's a good thing. Or is it disharmony? Dissonance, good, very good. Dissonance, right? Two voices don't imply a problem. Two voices could be amazing. Two voices could be harmony. You harmonize. I've heard your beautiful harmonies in Shul and Dafe. Me, if I would try to harmonize, it's not going to, I don't know the secret sauce to harmony, but I can hear it. And I know this, that two voices that are different don't necessarily have to end in chaos. It could end in beauty. It could end in harmony. When does it end in beauty and harmony? If they're working together. This depiction, and this is the most common depiction of the Sfirot, where you have a right, you have a left, you have a center, there's a balance. And you notice, I'm sure, the lines in between, that's all the connection points. It means that the energies aren't isolated. They're not islands. They're not like kingdoms or fiefdoms that are fighting against each other and, vying for control of the top of the mountain and, wanting to throw off the other down the cliff. That's not what's going on here. They're all working together. This is the depiction of the energies in the world of Tikkun. This is the world of Yaakov, of Jacob. The world of Esav, the world of Esau, Kabbalah says, is the world of Tohu, the world of chaos. That is where each energy wants to rule exclusively at the expense of the other. This is where each energy says, I'm in control. You're garnish. You're nothing. You are a distraction.
Going to be, so we would look at, say, chesed is good, but not too much. I mean, you have to have the balance. So exactly. What do you have? So you're saying that
Tohu.
Right. So, but if you have too much gevura, we say, okay, that's not good. Can you have too much chesed?
Yes. Too much chesed Oh, so Sam's asking 1 second. It makes sense to say that you can't have Gvura alone, but what's wrong with Chesed? Maybe Chesed as an island works. Chesed also doesn't work as an island because Chesed is pure giving. Sometimes you have to say no. If a child asks to play with fireworks, the answer is no. The child says, can I walk to my friend's house? And the child is 5 years old. The answer is, by myself, sorry. The answer is, no, you're a little too young, right? It's very too, yeah.
No, I was going to say, and without trying to make myself out of some wonderfully kind individual, I actually listen to the Kabbalah meditation, and that's the most important to me. Because my instinct, if someone asks, is to give, and I'm giving to the detriment of myself. And I'm honestly demeaning and diminishing my own spirit.
Reservoir to get right. Because you got to preserve something for yourself also.
Leaving myself empty.
And there's another angle. There's another angle. That's something I've shared many, many times. Thank you for sharing that. And it's very true. Another angle on the excess or the corruption of giving would be something like Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree. That book, that's a favorite kids book, which could be understood in many different ways. But my favorite way of understanding it, which I think is, to me, is the most poignant, is where he's describing a codependency, where the tree needs to be the giver, as opposed to saying to the boy, go get a job, right? The boy says, I need money. I need a boat. And the tree says, great, take my apples, cut me down. Okay, 1 second. The alternative would be, you need money? Great. Go off, my son, into the world. Go off, boy, and become, stand on your own 2 feet. And I think that is it's another form of I don't know what the right word, misguided or, not fully appropriate giving to the point where there's no sense of boundary. There's no sense of identity. Gvura creates space for the other. Gvura, okay. Let's use a more mundane example. You're trying to teach your kid to ride a bike, but you never let go. At some point you need to let go, but isn't that Gvura? They're going to fall. Yeah. It is, but if you're always holding on, that's not chesed either. That's not kind. It's tough. It's not even that tough. I think it's normal, right? If we're always holding by the hand, I don't know. It's like eventually it's just not gonna, it's not going to be the idea.
Which is why you need the balance.
Which is why you need the balance. No one has suggested that therefore it's only Gvura. On the contrary, that's what we're talking about. It's chesed and Gvura. It's knowing when to exercise chesed, knowing when to exercise Gvura. Give you another example in a relationship. If in a relationship, one party says, so what are you doing today? Right? Where are you going? Oh, you're hanging out with your friends? Who are your friends? Tell me about and is so dominating to the point that doesn't give the other person space to be their own person. Again, that's an expression of love and closeness, but it might be a little too suffocating and smothering. Exactly. So the point is, and so what we've shared is probably maybe 4 or 5 different ways in which pure chesed, untempered by gvura, is simply not healthy. And by the way, Scott, I like what you said, which is that chesed is almost the most dangerous of them because chesed seems like the nicest. In other words, it seems like if there's any one that we can just lean into without worrying too much about it, it's chesed. The truth is, chesed can be as devastating as gvura or as any of them alone. So the point is that Kabbalah says that there is a reality, there is a space, whatever you want to call it, where you have this idea of the energies not working together in cooperation like something like this. You don't have the parts of, you don't have the lines connecting them. You don't have the sense of symmetry and balance, but each one is its own island. That would be depicted, and we never see it like this really, but that would be depicted as each energy like on top of the other, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just in a straight line, like in one column, a straight line down. Or sometimes it's depicted in Kabbalah as circles, like an inner circle and then a circle around it and then another circle around it. And each circle represents another one of the energies. But again, it's, you could say, well, one is deeper than the other and that's great, but you don't have the sense of balance. It's really important to understand that this depiction is not just a visual. It's like, well, how do you imagine spiritual energies? Oh, we'll draw circles and align them in 3 columns. It didn't just happen like this. You could create 5 columns, and have 2 rows. any number of ways that this can be depicted. This is specifically depicted as kav hayamin, kav hasmol, and kav ha'emtza. A right line, a left line, and a center line, a right pole, left pole, and center pole. It's very specific because these are the ways in which there is balance to be found, and it's specifically with this right, left, center, as we know in Kabbalah and just in Judaism in general. 3 always represents the idea of harmony and balance. Shalom, peace, is always symbolized by 3. The Talmud says, this is Gemara, it's not even Kabbalah, says that Torah was given, right, to the people that have 3 Kohen, Levi, Yisrael, 3 types. It was given by the 3rd born in his family, Moses, through the 3rd born in his family, Moses, Miriam, Aaron, Moses, right? So he's the 3rd born, given to in the 3rd month, the Yarchatolisai, whatever. It goes through a bunch of 3s. And the way it's explained is that why 3? Because Torah is about bringing peace into the world. Torah is specifically to bring peace and harmony and to realize the purpose and alignment of the world. And alignment, peace and harmony is always when you have the number 3. 1, there's no alignment with 1. There's no peace with 1. It's the single voice. There's no dissent. There's no dissonance. But it's just oneness. 2 represents a fracturing. 3 represents bring back together and the harmony, the unity within diversity. So it's like, I got a friend who always tells me, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Thesis is your idea. Antithesis is when you have an opposing idea. Synthesis is bring the 2 together. 1, 2, 3. The Maharal of Prague, so beautiful. He says, it's like crazy. Maharal of Prague was, on so many levels, genius beyond genius. He says like this, take 1 line, just like draw a straight line, not a circle. Straight line, 1 line. 2 lines can only intersect at 1 point. They can never intersect at 2 different points. You with me on that? 2 lines, they can only intersect at 1 point. They will never come back and intersect. 3 lines, now you can create multiple points of connection. Now you can create a triangle, essentially, which connects and creates that perfect alignment, 1, 2, 3. Whereas 2 lines can only connect at 1 point. 3rd line can bring it all together and bring it back in harmony and alignment. The point is that the world of Tohu, which is symbolic of Esau, is a world in which there is no cooperation. Each energy is amped up to 100% and doesn't listen, doesn't create space for the other. Tessa is like, I'm pure chesed. Not literally, but sort of. Kavura does the same, etc. Now, that's why the mystics tell us that the world of Tohu is a world of intensity. That's why Esau is way more intense than Jacob. Jacob is described as a pure guy, simple guy, a sincere guy, dwelling in the tent, studying Torah. He's doing his thing. Esau, he's a man of the field. He's the hunter. He's the warrior type. A lot more energy in the Esau persona. And that's true in the world of chaos versus the world of repair. The world of chaos has way more energy. There's way more energy that leads to volatility. Chesed is way more amped up. Therefore, it doesn't get along with Gevura because Gevura is also amped up and it doesn't give space. So it's in the language of Kabbalah, the lights are strong, the vessels are too small. Meaning, you have too much light, too little vessel. It's like, I'll give an example here. Okay, a very physical example, which is not, it's almost like a literal example, which none of this is meant to be taken literally, but nonetheless, if your eye needs light to see. If it's pitch black, you can't see. On the other hand, if there's too much light, you also can't see. One of the reasons I once heard why we check chametz, the eve of night before our Pesach, we look for the chametz around the house. We use a candle. Why a candle? Turn on the lights. The thing with a candle is, you're holding the candle, it creates such a light when it's dark. It almost blinds the eye. Almost. You have to hold it in the right space, and then only illuminates one specific area. You can't gloss over, you can't just like scan, all right, I think we're good here. You have to look one at a time because the light is simultaneously too big and too small. It's like an interesting concept, an interesting phenomenon. The point is that light is good, too much light is not good. Chesed is great, too much chesed, not so great. Too much chesed, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing that becomes not a good thing anymore. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. When there's too much, yeah.
So pure tzaddik.
Yeah.
Is he all chesed? He's not all chesed.
No, balance.
So, but every one of us starts out at different, develops, as we develop and grow, these are never
perfect
the
alignment.
same for different people.
Correct. Somebody has 80% chesed, 20% gvura, or whatever, and their life is going to be challenged to try to find a healthier balance.
So what is the healthy? Is the healthy balance equality, or does it depend on each person where they're starting?
Depends each person where they're starting from. Depends each person's mission in life. Some people are meant to be more toward the chesed side. In other words, that's their dominant by nature. That's their dominant trait.
So they have to struggle to balance with on the other side.
Right. But there is also a message in there, your role is going to be chesed. You will also have to develop some gvura to make sure that it doesn't go off the rails. But it doesn't mean that you have to become gvura, although you may have to exercise. I think the Rebbe once said that, that internally he's gvura, externally he's chesed. Like always with a smile, right? But internally, he felt like gvura, but he compensated as the way he showed up in interactions with chesed. His father-in-law, he said, was the opposite. He was at the core chesed, but as he showed up, it was a little bit more stern, a little bit more gvura. So it seems like there is this thing, this work, as it were, of seeking to find the balance, seeking to find that balance. And it doesn't mean to dissolve what makes us unique. Doesn't mean like if I have a propensity toward chesed, that I should become, I should delete that chesed, out of my system and be like, nope, I'm going to go the other way just to challenge myself, become a man of gvura, very disciplined. Look, even when it comes to the patriarchs, the avot, right? We say that Avram was chesed, Yitzchak was gvura, and Yaakov, Jacob is tiferet. Again, that means down the middle, the idea of harmony and balance, which ties into this idea of tikkun, this harmony and balance. It says from Avram, he was maybe a little too much chesed, came out Yishmael, also too much chesed. In other words, when you have a lot of passionate connection, sometimes it can also end up in other places. Too much gevura ends up with an asik.
Are you familiar with Saul Bellow, his books?
With who?
Saul Bellow.
Are you?
My nephew's married to his grandniece.
Okay,
wow.
Anyhow, he's a Jewish author. He wrote in the 1960s. And I just finished reading a book, Mr. Sandler's Planet.
Huh.
And the last thing, on the last page, the last paragraph was, everyone has a track they have to find out.
Wow.
So
That is beautiful. Right? Everyone has a track,
yeah,
a mission, an angle that they're meant to go, right. And so I think it's a direction, right? A path in life. And I think that's very powerful. The idea that, we are going to have, look, everything on the right is more expressive. Everything on the left is more contained. So this would be more extroverted. This would be more introverted. This is a little bit more balanced. It doesn't mean if you're one or the other, then you should work on changing your personality, wholesale. It's not what we're suggesting. If that's your nature, great. There's a reason for that. You can accomplish something amazing in that space. What we're really saying is that look for where your inherent nature might be leading you into a negative space. And when it's leading you to negative space, that's when you need to pull from the other side. You need to find a little bit of balance. If you find your chesed so active that it's depleting and it's no longer energizing, but it's sapping. Okay, so now we need to use a little more gevura. Conversely, if the gevura is getting too stern, now we need a little bit more chesed. It's always about finding the balance, but not necessarily undoing what makes us individually unique. Now, that's all tikkun. Tohu is where there's no conversation. It's not like I'm listening to gevura's suggestion. Maybe don't give. It's like, what are you talking about? Gevura, you're irrelevant. Gevura says to chesed, you're irrelevant. And so you have the sense of chaos. As the mystics tell, as we continue this story, this kind of primordial conversation, even though it's personified in the duality of this week's Torah portion, in the meeting of Tohu and Tikkun, of Jacob, of Esau and Jacob, the mystics tell us that this happened actually before creation, that you have this world of chaos, and in this world of chaos, the vessels shatter. I mentioned before, too much light, too little vessel, too much energy, and too little containment or the ability to bridge the combinations, and that becomes a volatile situation, and it explodes. Now, not literally, but metaphorically, it explodes. And this is called shvirat hakelim, the shattering of the vessels. And Kabbalah teaches that the fragments of these vessels, the shards of the vessels, become embedded in all of material reality. In other words, in the world around us, if we were to look with a spiritual, when they God forbid, crime scenes, they look with this glow, with this light that shows blood or whatever. So imagine if you had like a spiritual, the spiritual light. If you were to look with a spiritual light, you would see the world around us, and you would see points of light embedded in the craziest of places, like in a bagel, right? In a cup of tea, peppermint tea, I think it is, right? There would be a spark, a shard of divinity in there. And our task, because we live in the world of repair, our task is tikkun olam. Tikkun olam has been, I'm not saying this in a negative way, but has been co-opted to mean something else. But in the original understanding of tikkun olam, as formulated by the mystics, it's a Kabbalistic phrase. The original meaning of tikkun olam is literally to collect and fix the broken vessels that fell from the world of Tov, from the world of chaos. That means that as we go through life and interface with physical reality, utilizing that physical reality for its intended purpose, which means that as we see the things around us, we're not just seeing tables and tea and bagels and whatever. We're not just seeing physical things. We're seeing a spiritual purpose of that thing. It's like I don't know if you want to call it X-ray vision, but it's a different type of vision. It's a spiritual spark vision where you're seeing not just the surface reality, you're seeing the core reality of what it is, but more importantly, what it's meant to serve.
But what would the spiritual focus be of a table? The fact that you can put your laptop on and teach it? Correct.
The fact that you can eat a meal on it, the fact that you can study Torah with it, the fact that you can, host friends and family around it. It's a utility. Yes, 100%. Everything is a spiritual utility. Now, the things that are clearly forbidden in Torah, that also has a spark. The mystics tell us that the way we access that spark is by rejecting it. In other words, some things were meant to utilize for the positive. Other things were meant to reject, to walk away from. When we reject it, that fulfills its spark. Its purpose is fulfilled by being rejected. But most things in life are not forbidden. Most things are like a table, neutral, which means that the surface is earthly or physical. At the core, there's something spiritual. And now we get to choose. Will we utilize it only for will we see it only for the surface reality, or will we see it for its deeper purpose, and will we utilize it for that purpose? That is how we repair the brokenness of Tohu. We fix the brokenness of Tohu by seeking out the sparks that are all around us. Kabbalah further says that every single soul is associated with certain sparks. And every single soul, therefore, is sent on a mission. You know how Google Maps you have like, I don't know, Google on your phone or whatever, it'll track everywhere you've been in a super creepy way. Right? It's like at the end of the month, here's where you've traveled. Kabbalah teaches, and there's a verse also, Hashem mitzadei gavar koneno, that God directs the footsteps of human beings. And what that means is that, like the map that we get at the end of the month from Google, like this is where you went, there's a map before the month, before we're born, saying this is where you're going to go. And the reason why you're going to go there, you're going to think you went there because you chose. You're going to think you went there because there was a detour. You think you're going to go there because someone else asked you to be somewhere that you weren't planning on going, so you ended up there. You're going to think of 1,000 reasons on the ground why you are or were where you are or were. But the truth is that God has directed your path to be in the places where the sparks are waiting for you. Because the sparks that you can collect are sparks that no one else can collect.
But surely if we have free will, we can go off path.
Yeah, you would think.
Right.
This is where it gets a little trippy. Free will only means, will you collect the spark that's waiting for you in that space? Free will does not pertain to, did you end up where you needed to be? Hakol bidei shamayim chutz miyireh shamayim. The Talmud says, everything is in the hands of heaven. God directs everything except for those choices that we make in that moment. When we had a choice of which university to go to, Kabbalah says that was never a free choice. You thought you chose, you were directed by God.
So if you end up at the wrong place, the purpose is to find the light within that.
No such thing as a wrong place. That's the point. What we think, it's all in our minds. We think it's the wrong place. We think like, oh, I was flying to LA and emergency land in Kansas City. I'm stuck now. Stuck.
Now you go out and you murder somebody.
Yeah. That's a problem. That would be a moral choice. That is our choice. But now that we did it, where we find ourselves, there is a
differentiates. You said a moral choice. Like that's different.
That's what it says. Hakol bidei shamayim chutz miyireh shamayim. Everything's in the hands of heaven except for fear of heaven, meaning Hashem controls everything. All the background stuff, the people that come into our lives, the people that go out of our lives, the places we go.
Back to your individual moral decisions you have to make.
In the moment, right, in the moment. So I am where I am, and I believe that I am where I am because God put me here. Even though I made choices, allegedly choices along the way, I'm here because I'm here. Now that I'm here, the question is, what am I going to do in this moment? Am I going to am I going to make the choice that I'm meant to do? Am I doing what I'm meant to do in this moment, in this opportunity? Am I going to take the opportunity, or am I going to let the moment pass me by? You know, is the moment going to be bigger than me, or am I going to seize control over the moment?
So science would, the Big Bang. So we're all made up of atoms, everything's got atoms, yeah? And then spiritual movement say we're all connected, oneness, everything is connected. Every soul, the trees,
Everything.
the wind, including inanimate things.
Sure.
So how do we connect? I mean, you have tree huggers who touch trees and they get the energy from them.
Sure.
But a table, there's no.
You never met table huggers?
Never met table huggers. But it's not. It's not got. Not doesn't have life. It has atoms, but it doesn't have life.
It has life, for
It
sure.
doesn't have a soul.
It has a soul.
It has a soul.
It's the same matter, like nothing is we create or it has.
Right.
It's the same stuff.
The Arizal says that even an Evan Domim, even a still silent rock, has a nefesh, has a soul.
Have a soul.
Which I don't know if a table is any different than a rock. It's just another. It's scientists they created this plastic. They just reconfigured molecule wherever they're doing to create that, but it's still from it's still from matter. Yeah, for sure. It's just a reconfiguration. Yeah.
There are atoms everywhere. Even the air has atoms. So the air is connected to this because it's adjacent to it.
Sure.
And it's touching it. So it's like, it's just one whole surface of electrons and protons that are interconnected. So it's not like you see it as separate, but really it's all one thing.
And that's thank you for sharing that, because that is really important. That idea of we see things as separate, but that doesn't necessarily reflect the reality. And really, our purpose in life is to almost display. We have this magic paintbrush that we're able to say, look, this too is connected. This table is part of my spiritual purpose. This is connected with God. Not that we made it.
Table makes no decisions.
Correct.
It makes no moral decision or any type of decision.
Correct.
It's here.
It's here. We are the ones, no, good. We are the ones that choose whether or not this table is going to be used for something positive or something, what we would call a neutral negative, meaning just for, I don't know, for nothing. And not that that's bad, but it's a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity. Because again, if we had that vision, or what I call spiritual vision, or you want to call it Kabbalah vision, TM trademark that thing, right? If I were to put on my Kabbalah glasses and I would look out, I would see almost like, now they have these 3D overlays on Pokemon Go or whatever it is. You would see like, oh, there's light. There's a light shining in this table. How do I access the light? As opposed to being ignorant or being blind to the light and saying, I don't see any light. There's no purpose here. This is just a table. I can see that, no, there is light here. There is something meaningful. David, you wanted to jump in.
Yes. The
Hold on 1 second.
concept
Let me make
of,
this louder. Start again.
I have a question about the concept of the sparks.
Yes.
When, let's say, using the table as an example, when you access the spark or liberate it, does it still have a spark afterwards, or is it like each organism or each item has one spark?
Excellent question. Is it one and done? David's question. David's question is, once you have utilized it, let's say for its purpose, does that mean that it's now been, let's say, reconnected or plugged back into its source, and now it's finished, now it's done? It's a really good question. In some sources, the implication is yes, that once you do it, once you fulfill it, it has now achieved its purpose. But as you and I know, you can use something today for a higher purpose, and then tomorrow you can neglect it. And I think that that is still a wasted opportunity, because I think what it means is that that has a spark that can be used. As long as it is around, it can still either be used for its purpose, i.e. align. Today's class is called align. What is it, aligned or alignment? Alignment, right? Am I aligned? And that's really what we're talking about here. Am I aligning the table with its higher purpose, or am I disconnecting it by not using it? By me not using it, when a human being who has the power of alignment neglects the power and does not align it, essentially what we're doing is we're actually misaligning it or disaligning it. We're pulling it, we're unplugging it from its source. So the short answer to your question is, it's actually a really good question. I think, again, that some sources imply that a thing has a spark, and if you reclaim and reconnect that spark, then you've fulfilled that purpose. But again, I think and maybe that's yes. If you ate a bagel, that's it. It's either you did it or you didn't do it, and that's a one-time deal. A table, we're not eating the table. So I think there's a sense of, yes, every opportunity that I have either creates alignment or, again, disconnection. There's really no such thing as neutral. I mean, it starts off as neutral. That's what's called in Kabbalah klipat noga, means neutral. But either we're lifting it to Kedusha, when we encounter it, either we're raising it to holiness, i.e. aligning it, connecting it, or we're not, in which case we're disconnecting it. Dr. Maxey, jump in.
Thank you. So is it the case that, so I was aligned, I did the right thing, I reconnected the spark to its source, and so maybe I have an opportunity to continue to connect that spark to its source. So that's one case. Is it also the case that the spark could break away or fall away through some other source and then needs to be reconnected again?
Interesting. It seems like from Kabbalah that shattering of the vessels and it's almost like, something smashed in the air and then like darts of glass, shards of glass become embedded. It seems like that happens once. But that's a good question, because
once in the whole of
it happened before creation. But then you could ask, well, one second, what happens if we're making a new table? Then, then what happens there? But you could also argue that nothing is created or destroyed. In other words, that all potential matter, all potential stuff is there. We're just moving it around, essentially. It's
So
kind of
sort
like,
of like the law of energy.
correct, right. And it's kind of like, remember that thing for the kids? It wasn't the Etch-a-Sketch. It was another thing. You had the magnetic thing, and it was like that little graphite stuff or whatever it was. No, not Etch-a-Sketch. The other guy. It had like the guy's face on it. You know what I'm talking about? You took
You had a magnet thing and you could draw it.
you could draw it. Yeah. It's almost
No,
like
Etch-a-Sketch was this.
Etch-a-Sketch was that. Yeah, this is different. This is your drawing. Either way, it's like you're not creating more of those little crumb things. I don't know what they're called. You're not creating any more of those things. Those things are there. You're just moving them.
rearranging.
You're just rearranging. Exactly. That's a good word. Rearranging. I like that. You're just rearranging it. And the question is ultimately,
That's what we do with everything. In this
literally, that's what we're doing with everything, right? Like the famous joke that we all know, right? The scientists say to God, we don't need you. We can create life. And God says, really, from the earth? Yeah. They bent down. But God says, get your own earth. Like, yeah, it's easy to take something that exists and, what did you say? Rearrange. I like that word. And rearrange it. It's rearranging. It's like I'm shuffling around from here to there. Not to diminish creativity and science and whatever. It's amazing. But it's rearranging. As opposed to, not opposed to. So life is, so we're rearranging. But our goal, in addition to rearranging, to make the world a better place, is also this alignment, this realignment, is to take the things that have now been rearranged and continuously align them and realign them with their source. And again, that constitutes really the purpose of our being. This is what we call tikkun olam. To fix the world means to realign the things that we come in contact with. Imagine we have, which again, like if this works for you, this works in my head for whatever reason right now, we have this magic paintbrush. You go around, and if we pull it out and we use it, we're like, oh, this too is part of God's world. This too serves a positive utility. This is not just a table. This is now a platform from which we can teach Torah, from which we can study Torah, from which we can enjoy a good meal and share words of Torah and be inspired, etc., and connect people to each other. This is now not just a physical thing. This is now something of tremendous spiritual power. That is at the core of our purpose. Now, along those lines, it's important to recognize the challenges in facilitating this, because at the end of the day, it's very easy to not see the light inside. It's very easy to think of something physical as just something physical and something devoid of a spark. It takes an insightful individual with the teachings of Kabbalah and really Judaism to say, one second, I see this not just as a bagel, I see this as a bagel with soul, right? I see this not just as a table, it's a table with soul, with a spark. Sparks are there, and my purpose is realignment. Again, I just want to emphasize this. The key to this is perception. What do I see? Do I see something else beneath the surface, or do I just see the surface? This comes down to a simple question. When I look at physical things, do I just see the physical, or do I also see the spiritual that is enlivening, that is vibrating, as it were, almost in the physical? That's the question. It all begins with vision. It's like baseball. It's like hitting a fastball, or hitting, actually not just a fastball, hitting a pitch, right? Can you see the pitch? What do you see? The best hitters have the best eyes, right? What do you see when you look out at the world? When you look at a buffet, what do you see? Do you just see the food, or do you see divine energy there, right? Do you see people on the surface, or do you see their potential? Do you see a world, or do you see a world powered, created, animated, vivified, vitalized, energized by God? That is the core question, which takes us to our text, page 48. Let's jump into our text. Let me pass these around. I'm going to put it up on the screen as well. Please take a pass.
So while you're passing that, so you have tohu.
Yes.
You never mentioned the vohu. Tohu vohu.
Yeah, Kabbalah seems to gloss over that. I'll be honest. Tohu is just tohu vavohu. Maybe it's just all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's actually a good point. I never thought of that actually. Tova, in the account of creation, it says in the beginning, before the beginning, the world was tohu vavohu, void and chaotic, or chaotic and void. And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the deep. It's like in Bereshit, in the Torah, it says that. Kabbalah uses that term tohu and says this is a reference to the spiritual construct that we're talking about, the world of chaos. But there's two expressions. The world was chaotic and void. He's asking, what's the void? Is the void explained in Kabbalah what that is? So I'm like, that's a good question. Just speaks about the world of chaos. I don't know where the void comes in. Say it again.
Kendall.
Oh,
That line. on
yes.
That is pre-creation.
It's chaos.
I
That's
have
the
that.
chaos. Oh, I gotta share the joke. I've shared it before. I don't know if I'm gonna remember all the details. Like different professionals are arguing who had the earliest profession. So let's see. The therapist says, "Oh, I have the first job in the Torah because God had to counsel, Adam and Eve after the sin to, he had to speak to them and whatever." The doctor says, "No, I have the first reference in the Torah because Adam and Eve, right? Eve was created from Adam, from the side of Adam, etc. Surgery, doctors come first." And the lawyer says, "No. Remember, it says that there was chaos. Who do you think created the chaos?" Anyway, something like that. I don't know. Maybe that, or maybe the politician says it. Who knows? Okay, back to the story. Let's jump in. Page 48. We are going to, this is unbelievable. We're going to start from the top just to get a running start. We did this already. We did the first two paragraphs. We're going to do it just to get, because it's been a few weeks. So we're going to get a running start, and then we're going to get into some incredible astronomy. It's just wild and connected, obviously, with our preamble today. So here we go. I'm going to read page 48. Thus, he says, understanding how the soul powers the body, the limbs of the body are also subservient to the soul's will. Should a person wish to place his foot into hot water, there's no resistance whatsoever. Again, he is illustrating this concept that the surface, we have to look beneath the surface. When you look at a body, it's not just the body that's moving around. There's a soul that's making it move around, right? Bodies don't move. That's not a thing. Bodies are inert. Bodies don't move. Souls move in body. It's like a glove. Gloves don't move. You put on the glove, you put your hand in the glove, now you can wiggle the glove. Same thing as with the body itself and the soul. This is due to the foot's total subservience to the soul, since the soul is the body's entire life force and raison d'être, something like that. I'll explain above its purpose. And it's precisely because it is subservient to the soul that the foot is able to receive its vitality from the soul. This is very important. Because the actual foot is subservient to the soul, that is how it exists, which I didn't mention this. How does the table exist? Until now we've said that if you put on the right glasses, if you put on the right vision glasses, you could see that there's light inside the table. I'm saying something deeper than that. Because how do you think the table exists? Because it itself is transparent to its source. It allows space for its source. The only question is, do we even see what it itself is doing? If the table rejected or resisted its source, it wouldn't exist. Anyway, let's continue. Similarly, that's what he says over here now with all creation. Similarly, all of the creations are subservient to the godly light and life force within them. Subservient meaning they are open to receiving the light of God that is flowing through them. This subservience is especially apparent with the celestial bodies. That refers to literally the planets and the stars. As the verse says, and the hosts of the heavens bow down to you. Say it every morning in the morning prayers, Shabbat, weekday, etc. The sun sets in the west, he says. Why? Right, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Why? Because the Shekhinah Shechina b'mayrav, because Shechina is in the west. In other words, the very rotation, the very way in which we see the planets operate, we see the sun rising in the east. Where's the east? The east is here, right? Rising in the east and sets in the west. That itself is symbolic of the sun acknowledging, almost bowing down to God, moving toward that space of transparent acknowledgement of its source. The sun's orbit from east to west until it sets is its form of prostration, meaning bowing down. It's how it is surrenders to its source. Again, not only what I said up until now, not only in every creature, every creation is there a divine light, but that creature's acknowledgement and almost surrender to that light is what allows it to exist. And he says, you see this with the movement of the celestial bodies. Likewise,
The celestial body has no free will to change that movement.
Correct. Right. Not necessarily am I saying that it's a surrender that is a choice, but it's an inherent surrender. It is open to that, and that's how it exists. If it were to be closed to that, it wouldn't exist.
How's it bowing down? Because if God was on the west and the sun's rising, how is it bowing?
It's
not
like it's moving into this posture, but then it's bowing down. Then it's ending in the west, right? That's the imagery that it seems like he's saying, that it's going up and then down like that, right? It's like a person.
You see that with the evening sun.
Yeah. It's going down. Likewise, look what he says. Likewise, last paragraph 48. Likewise, all the celestial bodies orbit from east to west and with the ninth sphere. This gets into Jewish astronomy. This is a complicated topic because, as you may know, a lot of this is drawn from Maimonides. As you may know, Maimonides was a not heliocentric, but geocentric astronomical perspective, i.e. that the Earth is at the center, but that's not that relevant here in this context. The point that he's saying is here that all celestial bodies orbit from east to west with the ninth sphere. Maimonides describes multiple spheres that contain atmospheric spheres, heavenly spheres, as it were, that contain various items. The sun is in this one, the moon is in that one, the stars are in the other one, etc. Though their own natures to orbit from west to east, some of these are moving from west to east within their own sphere. They nonetheless orbit from east to west because the Shechina Malchut of Atzilut is found in the west. The way Maimonides describes it, as explained by the commentaries, it's like within each of, imagine these 9 as concentric circles, within each one of them, a specific planet, star, celestial body may be moving toward the east, but the 9th sphere is rotating it from east to west, and that is the overwhelming thing. The footnote, it's brought the example that imagine you're on a ship headed west, and you're walking from the front to the back of the ship, right? So you're walking, you're walking east, but guess what, my friends? You're traveling west. Doesn't matter how far. You could be running. Let me tell you, you're on an airplane, right? You're flying from Atlanta to LA. You're headed west, but you're headed to the bathrooms in the back. Let me tell you, you're still headed west. You might be individually walking east, taking a few steps to the east, but you are definitely flying westward. So that's what he says over here. And the reason is because Shechina, the Malchut of Atzilut, is found in the west. That's a very complicated thing that Sfirot not only have right column, left column, but they also have directions within the 6 directions. That's what he says right here. For the configuration of the supernal 6 directions, the west corresponds to Malchut, top of 50, the source from which the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya are brought into existence and vivified, i.e. Malchut of Atzilut is the source of the creation of the lower 3 realms, of which we are in the lowest part of Asiya, the world of action. This is why the celestial bodies orbit westward, for this is their prostration and surrender to the source of their vitality and existence. In other words, all celestial bodies bow down, as it were, toward the west, which is where God's divine presence is depicted. That's all vis-a-vis heavenly creatures. The same is true, second paragraph in 50, of all earthly creatures. This is where it gets interesting. They are all subservient to the godly life force. It is just that the subservience of terrestrial creation is not readily apparent. What he's saying is that the table is completely surrendered to God. We don't see it. necessarily. In truth, however, this is the reality. Just as one sees in himself that his body is completely subservient to the light and life force of his soul, similarly, it can be understood that all creatures of the mineral, he says mineral, that's stone, table, vegetable, and animal kingdom are subservient to the God that lay within them. In other words, just like a person knows that if their body were to reject their soul, they would not live, because you can't have a body without a soul. So too, a person can also recognize that the world itself has a soul, a divine life force flowing through it. A rock can't exist, right? The rock can't exist without the divine light flowing through it and without being surrendered to that divine light. Okay, this subservience is the primary cause of their vivification. In other words, their being open to the life, to the light of God, is what floods it with animation. As it is written, the fear of God brings life, i.e., they live and exist because of their subservience to God and fear of him. Fear does not mean fear in the I'm afraid of. Fear means the recognition of surrender before the other. It's about not getting in the way and not blocking the life force. In other words, everything exists because of the energy flowing through it. If it were to resist the energy, if anything were to say energy out, it would cease to exist. The only way that this cup exists is because, not necessarily due to a choice of its own, but the way it's created by God, it is open to, and it's permeable, it allows the light to flow through it. And look what he says here. This is wild. Thus, he says, 4 lines down from the bottom paragraph of page 50, angels live longer than people. Who would have thought? Angels live longer than people. Why? Since they possess a greater degree of subservience. In other words, they're more open, they're more surrendered, they're more open to the life force flowing through them. Therefore, they live longer than people. Indeed, he says, back inside, death was visited upon humanity only because of the sin involving the tree of knowledge. Like we said a few weeks ago, had man retained his initial degree of subservience as prior to the sin, he would have continued to live for the entire span of 6,000 years. The way humans were created initially, they did not possess an evil inclination. They possessed only surrender, pure surrender. If the human being was purely surrendered to the source, the human being, imagine you're plugged into the source, you would live forever. So why did death happen? Because we blocked the light. We said to God, thank you very much. We're okay on our own, right? Thanks, but no thanks. We got our own thing going. God says, you got your own thing going. Now you die. What do you mean you got your own thing going? What's your own thing? If you're blocking the light, then the light is blocked. That's what it is. If you have a cable, I've used the example so many times. If you have an audio cable or a charging cable to your phone and you bend it, 1,000 times, at some point, the connection is going to be compromised. And the next time you plug it in, your phone may not charge. It just may not charge because you've compromised the connection. You've blocked, it's not flowing through the electricity, it's not flowing through that wire, that cable anymore. That's what's going on here. When there's a disruption in the cable, in the connection, that's when death becomes visited. Page 52. The subservience of the creatures is the cause of their vivification existence. This is the third time he said it. He said it vis-a-vis the heavenly, the celestial bodies. He said this regarding earthly bodies, and others, all physical reality as well. And I was saying it for the third time. The subservience of the creatures, their surrender to the light, is the cause of their vivification existence. Which, by the way, is not just a theory. It's something it's a call to action for us. How open are we to God? How open are we to that light? The more open we are, the more alive we are. The less open we are, the opposite.
So how to be open?
Open means surrender. Open means I'm open to, well, first and foremost, it means I'm seeing you everywhere. I don't see the surface. I see the light inside. And I display that by how I look at things around me. That's why it's connected with how we started. If I can look at a table and say, this is here to serve a purpose, that means that I am open. I'm surrendered to the light that's flowing through the table. And I'm probably open to the light flowing through me as well. And so I'm more alive. There's more vitality when I'm open to that. Because if I'm closed to that, if I'm like, no, I'm a body, I exist. This is a table, it's just a table. The more closed I am, the more I reject the light, the less alive I am. Just saying it. So again, starting from the top, because I cut off the sentence, the subservience, page 52, the subservience of the creatures is the cause of their vivification existence. For since their existence and vivification stems from godliness, when they subordinate themselves to godliness, they become vessels for the godly light and life force. It is precisely in this manner that they live and exist. Again, the degree to which a thing lives and exists is completely dependent on how open it is to its light force, to the divine life force that is flowing through it. Regarding this, the verse says, see, I place before you life, i.e., this can be perceived empirically, seen for my flesh, I perceive godliness. A person can feel it in his soul. He can therefore readily understand that the same is true of the world at large, as explained above. In other words, just like we know for ourselves that our bodies don't create themselves, though we have a soul, so too when we look at the world, it's like table has a soul, the tree has a soul, the bagel has a soul, everything around me has a soul. It doesn't just exist, just like my body doesn't just exist. And I know that because, Laila, we've all encountered individuals that have passed away. The body is still there, but they're not alive. So what does it mean? There's no life force flowing through it. It's not about a body. It's not like if you have a body, you're set. No, a body is just a container. You need life flowing through it. The same thing is true with all of creation. You can't just have a table. What's a table? A table means you have life force flowing through it. And the more we see it, the more we're likely to utilize it for its purpose, which is aligned with its light.
Which is what, sorry, aligned with?
With its light. In other words, to realign it with its purpose. As opposed to seeing it for a surface, we see it for what it really is.
Purpose. If you don't have a purpose, then you cease to exist. A lot of people, when they
Well said.
don't have their purpose, cannot help or do anything, they die, right? They retire and then they die.
Right. Withers and lose all sense of purpose, etc. Very well said. Very well said. That's almost like the psychological effect of everything we're talking about here. Are you aligned with something greater than yourself? Are you aligned with some sort of purpose, with some sort of divine calling? Right? If we surrender to that, we're alive. If we block that out, I'm just a body. I just exist to eat and drink and go to sleep. That's not sustainable, ultimately.
Like that's Jordan's life, because it brings its water through it.
It flows out to right. Again, very well stated. Let's do a little, we're at the time. Okay. We're gonna stop here. Perfect. Okay, good. We're gonna pick it up middle of 52, where it says loving God for he is your life. We're gonna pick that up next week. Next week, we have an incredible conversation. I was reviewing it over Shabbos. He talks about the power of meat, the power of beef to literally stimulate the mind. Very interesting. And other things. He talks about business, a meditation for business people. It's incredible. All right. So all that is coming up next week. So in short, here's my summary that I would like to share today. We started off today by talking about Tohu and Tikkun related to this restore portion. We have the idea of Jacob and Esau, how chaos and repair. Chaos is born of a sense of spiritual ego. I'm chesed, hear me roar, like I'm gvura, get out of my way. That spiritual ego is also a problem, even though these are divine energies, but even divine energies can be toxic. You need balance. Balance comes through humility. And it's the balance that we are seeking to achieve in this world, in our life, right? Living or trying to create that type of tikkun repair is about walking through life and saying, okay, I see that this can be aligned. This can be connected with its source. That is the tikkun. I fix it by reconnecting it. When I plug it in, I fix it. And really, what we studied inside is all about what it means to plug in. What it means is that I realize that the thing itself, the physical thing itself, does not exist without being plugged in. The table, it's not just I'm plugging it in, it's already plugged in. I am just revealing that through my actions, or I am connecting with that through my consciousness. And I know that sounds vague. Let me try that one more time in actual language. The bagel is connected with God without, we're not creating the connection. But when we eat it with the right mindfulness, when we eat it, we recognize that there's a spark of God inside of that, and it's meant to give us energy to study Torah or to do a mitzvah, whatever it is. When we have the right mindfulness, we consciously are aware of that, of the purpose of that thing, and we in our minds connect it. It's already connected. There's already a divine life force flowing through it. But when we utilize it for the right purpose, we are overtly in this world revealing that to ourselves and to all around us. This too is for a higher purpose. So we're not necessarily creating the connection as much as we are revealing the connection. Again, we have that paintbrush. We're revealing the truth, like reading Rainbow. We're reading Rainbow? Reading Rainbow. LeVar Burton, remember that? Take a look, it's in a book. Right? Remember, reading Rainbow. So like remember that whole butterfly it's going, it's painting
Yes,
everything.
I remember reading Rainbow.
Yeah, and it's painting everything colorful. It's amazing. It's beautiful. That's what we do. We're not making the connections, we're revealing the connections. And that's what we are doing. We are revealing the connection. We are like shadchanim. We're like matchmakers. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. We're making connections. We're revealing connections. It's already connected, but we're revealing the essential connection. And so, to a few things to think about this week. Here's the homework. Take one moment this week in which you're engaging with something mundane, allegedly mundane. Be mindful about that experience and consciously recognize how this experience is a connected experience with God, is a divinely or spiritually connected experience. That's one homework. The second homework is, in your own life, feel a little bit more. Take time this week, meditate 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Don't extend yourself too much, to meditate on the fact that flowing through you and everything around you is divine life force. And without it, nothing would exist. And the only reason that you exist and it exists, the stuff around you, is because of that subservience that we have innately, that type of surrender that we have to God. And how can we in our own lives expand that type of surrender and create that space for God? That's the homework. All right, got it? One meditative and one practical. Easy peasy. Next week, pop quiz. Kidding. Pop quizzes. We make this easier. Next week, bagels. There we go. All right, good. Questions, comments?
Alignment.
Yes.
So the mindfulness and everything else, study of the Torah, meditation.
Yes.
What else?
You know, when we're aligned with something higher, that really helps the alignment, the inter-sphirot alignment happen. It's when we're tied into ego that we become a little bit more stubborn, like, no, I'm chesed, you're not, or some other energy is presenting itself. I'm rejecting that, typically because of ego. When I'm open to a higher alignment, to higher truth, then I'm more likely to be aligned inside. It's really about that surrender to something greater. It's really the idea of three, right? One is like too easy. Two is now splintered. Three is when the two recognize something almost greater than self. Now we can recognize, okay, take it easy. I'm not fully right. You're not fully right. We need to work together to get to some higher truth. That's why in the Amida, before we say Oseh Shalom, b'mramav, right, about peace, asking for peace above and below, or saying he who creates peace above should help us create peace below, we take 3 steps back. The idea is that 3 is significant to the process of peace. 3 is always connected with peace. 3 is, 1 is me, 2 is you, 3, something beyond both of us. So, you know, chesed is 1. Chesed and gvura is 2. Chesed, gvura, and God, that's 3. Now we can get along.
Baked in is 3.
Baked in is 3. Yeah, always need 3. Always good to have 3. Good things come in 3s. Three is a chazaka, three is strong, three is strength. Okay. Good. This was not sponsored by AI.
Have AI.
But it is
explain.
kind of cool, I'm not gonna
Go
lie.
there and ask the question, you know, the AI to explain, see what it says.
I wonder if I put, if I copy and pasted this paragraph of the mimer, the discourse into AI, how would it sound? I think I have a PDF. I don't think I can copy and paste the words there. Yeah,
No, you wanted to know, have them to explain it to you.
let's see. No, well, explaining is something else. Let's see.
I
Let's see
know.
something over here.
What you're saying is simple.
Oh, hold on. Let's try this. Let's try it. I'm doing it right now. One paragraph. Let's see. Let's see how. The same applies to business affairs. One's intention should be to earn a living so that his mind and heart are free to be involved in Torah, study, and prayer, so that he can perform mitzvot, such as charity. Consequently, he will conduct his business affairs in a manner that neither distracts from nor interferes with his Torah study and prayer,